In the news tonight, His Majesty the King stressed the important role of investors and Jordanian businessmen in supporting the national economy during a visit to the headquarters of the Manasir Group and Al-Hikma Pharmaceutical Company. The Iraqi parliament approves a new government headed by Haidar Abadi as prime minister in a bid to rescue Iraq from collapse, with sectarianism and Arab-Kurdish tensions on the rise. And the world's largest tech company, Apple, unveils 2 new iPhones with sharper and larger displays, the first product since the iPad in 2010, at a special event in Cupertino, California. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. His Majesty the King stressed the importance of the role played by investors and Jordanian businessmen in supporting the national economy, finding solutions to poverty and unemployment, and help in achieving sustainable development across the kingdom. He said that the priority in the next phase will be strengthening the capacity of the national economy by creating investment opportunities in which the private sector plays a key role. The King made the remarks during a visit to the headquarters of the Manasir Group, followed up by the opening of a factory for Al-Hikma Pharmaceutical Company. He commended the two groups' contribution to the national economy and the jobs their efforts have created for Jordanians across the kingdom. His Majesty said that unemployment and job creation remain a top priority for both the state and the society, noting that the government is envisioning a plan for the national economy for the next 10 years, which would help address economic challenges and turn these into opportunities. His Majesty the King hailed the Manasir Group for employing 6,500 employees in its projects in various parts of the kingdom. His Majesty the King, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, paid a visit to the Special Police Command of the Gendarmerie Department and discussed with Gendarmerie Chief Major General Ahmed Ali Swailmeen issues of concern to the Gendarmerie forces. At the meeting, which was attended by His Royal Highness Prince Rashid bin Al Hassan, the King was briefed by the Special Police Commander on duties and tasks of the Special Police. His Majesty issued directives to provide maximum security and safety to citizens and foreign residents in the kingdom, adopt a humanitarian approach, and maintain high standards of justice and equality, besides ensuring respect for human rights. He said he was proud of the Gendarmerie Force's efforts to preserve the kingdom's resources and national achievements. His Majesty the King welcomed at Al-Husseiniya Palace Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu and said challenges facing the Middle East required an intensive regional and international effort to address. During the meeting, His Majesty reviewed conditions in the region and called for stepping up efforts to find radical solutions to those challenges and to confront and hold in check terrorist organizations and increasingly expanding extremist tendencies to arrive at a more secure and stable future for the region's peoples. The King also stressed the importance of stepping up efforts to restore the momentum to the Middle East peace process after ensuring a permanent ceasefire in the Israeli war against the Gaza Strip. On Syria, His Majesty cautioned against the repercussions of the ongoing Syrian crisis on neighboring countries, namely Jordan, Turkey and Lebanon, that host the largest numbers of Syrian refugees. Regarding the situation in Iraq, King Abdullah voiced Jordan's support to all efforts to promote unity in Iraqi ranks and achieve national consensus on various challenges facing the country. He said the formation of a new Iraqi government is an important step in that direction. The Turkish Foreign Minister briefed the King on his country's position vis-à-vis the current issues facing the region, pledging that Ankara would closely coordinate with Jordan at various levels. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates Affairs Nasser Jude also met with his Turkish counterpart. Jordan-Turkish relations, developments in the region and common challenges facing the two countries were issues discussed. The two ministers said they were keen on maintaining cooperation on common issues in a manner that reflects the distinguished relations between the two countries. They reviewed the latest developments in Iraq and Syria and their impact on the region.
Jordan and Turkey enjoy the best of historic relations at all levels, and there are common challenges and common dangers that we face together in this region that require close and continuous coordination and consultation between our two countries. As I said, today was a chance to discuss everything, bilateral relations, the challenges that we face in this region. We had the honor of being received in audience by His Majesty the King earlier, where there was also an open and comprehensive discussion.
I was received by His Majesty King Abdullah, and we had a very fruitful meeting with my brother Nasser Judah, and we discussed bilateral issues. I can say that it has been actually perfect, but we need to upgrade this relationship to strategic partnership, and we would like to establish this strategic partnership council hopefully soon, and we would like to actually balance the foreign trade. We understand the imbalance, and we are ready actually to do our best, and we are so keen to increase the investment of Turkish businessmen in Jordan.
Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour received British Secretary of State for International Development Desmond Swayne and discussed with him the political and socio-economic reforms Jordan has been carrying out. Mansour stressed that the kingdom had pressed ahead with the democratization drive and advancing public freedom, pointing out to the recently ratified constitutional amendments designed to prop up the democratic march and take the country into the era of forming parliamentary government. The meeting also dealt with the political situation in the Middle East and the humanitarian repercussions of the Syrian crisis. For his part, Swayne said Jordan enjoys a climate of security and stability despite adverse circumstances in the region. He said his country, since the start of the Syrian conflict, had remained committed to providing assistance to Syrian refugees and is currently supporting communities hosting these refugees. Separately, Mansour welcomed the President of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, Suma Chakrabarti. The EBRD supports several projects in the kingdom. Chakrabarti pledged the EBRD's strong support for Jordan's future economic development, noting that the bank's move to set up an office in Jordan will increase cooperation with the country. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour also met with Cypriot Minister of Energy and Commerce, Industry and Tourism, Georgios Lakotripios, and discussed with him ways to increase cooperation between Jordan and Cyprus in the energy field. Mansour said that the kingdom started to generate electricity by launching solar energy projects, especially that the kingdom imports most of its needs of energy. Later in the day, the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources, Mohammed Hamid, signed a memorandum of understanding with the visiting Cypriot minister to enhance cooperation in the energy domain. Hamid said the memorandum aims at exchanging information and expertise in areas of energy production, hydrocarbons exploration, infrastructure, and environmental protection standards. The deal also seeks to increase experts exchange, joint ventures, as well as studying prospects of importing natural gas from Cyprus. The Prime Minister said the Amiri border crossing between Jordan and Saudi Arabia connects us with the Arab Gulf that has always supported the kingdom. Mansour made the remarks as he opened the new cargo terminal at the border crossing. He said that the project was implemented with the support of the Saudi king through the allocation of $250 million. The Prime Minister highlighted the importance of this border crossing, which is used by 2 million passengers who cross annually. Mansour also toured various sections of the facility and checked on services offered to passengers. Over to Syria, where an explosion just a while ago killed at least 28 leading members of the Islamist insurgent group Ahrar al-Sham and seriously wounded its leader. During a meeting in the northwestern Syrian province of Idlib was attended by 50 leaders of the group when the explosion took place. And separately, the Syrian army has launched airstrikes and ground attacks on several targets held by the Al-Qaeda-affiliated Nusra Front groups on the Syrian side of the Golan. The Islamist rebels and Syrian government forces have been fighting for the control of villages in the Qneitra region for weeks. Meanwhile, the recently appointed UN Special Envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, arrived in Damascus on his first official visit after his appointment. Mistura, who was received by Syrian Deputy Foreign Minister Faisal Maqdad, is expected to request a permanent residence in Damascus, unlike his predecessors who stayed outside the country. He was due to meet Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, Foreign Minister Walid al-Muallim, and figures from the domestic opposition. Iraq's new government was sworn in last night in Baghdad in a bid to rescue Iraq from collapse, with sectarianism and Arab-Kurdish tensions on the rise. The new government, headed by Haider Abadi as Prime Minister, will include Sunni and Kurdish deputies, both of whom have been appointed key ministerial posts. Legislators approved all of the candidates proposed for the new government, with the exception of the defense and interior ministers. Abadi requested an additional week to name them. Outgoing Prime Minister Noor al-Maliki, former Prime Minister Iyad Allawi, and former Speaker of Parliament Osama Nujaifi were given the largely ceremonial post of co-vice president. Kurdish politician and former Foreign Minister Hoshyar Zebari was named as one of 3 deputy prime ministers, while former Prime Minister Ibrahim al-Jafari was named Foreign Minister. Abadi faces the challenge of unifying the country after it lost ground in northern Iraq over the summer to ISIS terrorists. Speaking before Parliament, he vowed to rebuild the army and fight terrorists till victory is achieved.
We pledge to support the military operations in all the areas of confrontation with the armed gangs and the terrorist forces, and to ensure it continues until victory is achieved.
The United States hailed the Iraqi parliament's approval of a new government as a major milestone.
Now is the time for Iraq's leaders to govern their nation with the same vision and sense of purpose that helped to bring this new government together in the first place. And in that effort, they should know the United States will stand shoulder to shoulder with the Iraqis as they implement their national plan to overcome the long-standing political and economic grievances that have for too long divided their country. Tonight, Iraq has a unity government. Tomorrow, I will travel to the Middle East to continue to build the broadest possible coalition of partners around the globe to confront, degrade, and ultimately defeat ISIL. On Wednesday, President Obama will lay out in even greater detail our coordinated global strategy against ISIL.
Meanwhile, on the ground, Shiite fighters from Saraya Salam militia said they were making advances in parts of Tikrit, northwest of Baghdad. The fighters, seeking to secure the area around Samarra, where they have sacred shrines, said they had managed to push back IS terrorists from the town of Banat al-Hassan in western Tikrit. IS took control of Tikrit in June, and the Iraqi army and local militias have been trying to regain it since then. Tensions increased in the streets of the Yemeni capital Sana'a as Houthi rebels escalated their standoff with the government. Yemeni soldiers traded gunfire with Shiite Muslim Houthi rebels near a military base, hours after soldiers killed at least 4 protesters who were trying to storm the cabinet building. Several injured demonstrators were rushed away from the site of the confrontation in the bloodiest day of tense demonstrations that have gripped the Yemeni capital for weeks and now threaten to descend into outright conflict. The Houthis are seeking to oust the government and reverse unpopular fuel price rises, but officials say they have a sectarian agenda to carve out their own semi-independent state and gain a veto power in national politics. Apple unveiled two new iPhones, the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus, with sharper and larger displays, as well as a few other products, a couple of hours ago in a special event in Cupertino, California. Since last night, customers waited outside the Apple store in New York City for the launch of the newest gadgets. The iPhone 6 will be available with a 5.5-inch or 4.7-inch screens, a step up from the current model's 4-inch screens. Some phones will boast extra tough screens made from scratch-resistant sapphire material. And it was showtime for the Apple smartwatch, which will track its wearer's health and fitness, double as an electronic wallet, and of course display messages. However, the watch will not likely go on sale until next year. The other new piece of Apple's pie is the mobile wallet. The partnership between Apple and major credit card providers will allow customers to use their gadgets at stores to buy everything from coffee to jeans, changing the shopping experience and extending Apple's reach from the web to real-world commerce. And to the world of glamour and the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week in New York. Veteran fashion designer Diane von Furstenberg presented a playful, breezy spring 2015 collection inspired by the glamorous French Riviera of the 50s. The collection was filled with flirty chiffon skirts, leg-bearing shift dresses, and bikini tops paired with side-wrap skirts. Splashes of green, blue, and yellow and floral prints collaged to evoke the masters were found throughout the collection, shown off by the models. Also making a return was von Furstenberg's staple wrap dress that became an instant hit when it was first introduced in 1974. Croatia's Marin Cilic swept past Japan's Kei Nishikori in 3 sets to win the U.S. Open and reach the pinnacle of the sport. Cilic overwhelmed a weary Nishikori in 1 hour and 54 minutes to clinch a ruthless victory, winning 6-3, 6-3, 6-3. Cilic had Nishikori on the back foot from start to finish, speeding through the opening set in just 33 minutes. With a win, 14th seed Cilic becomes the first Croatian to win a Grand Slam title since his coach Ivanisevic celebrated a Wimbledon victory in 2001. European soccer clubs have refused to rule out a Summer World Cup in Qatar in 2022, saying they want to be given strong, decisive reasons before accepting a decision to move it to a different time of year. European Club Association Chairman Umberto Gandini said there must be very good reasons for moving the World Cup from its conventional slot because it will jeopardize the entire game worldwide. 3 slots were put forward: January, February, June, July, and November, December. However, FIFA president clouded the issue when he simultaneously gave a taped interview and discarded a Summer World Cup. Gandini said that FIFA should pay more attention to the clubs, leagues, and players who would not be taking part in the 2022 World Cup and would have their seasons disrupted by a potential move. And finally, fair weather continues tonight in most regions with northwesterly light to moderate winds. Tomorrow, warm weather is expected across the kingdom and relatively hot in the Badia and the Jordan Valley. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect hot conditions, while winds will be northerly moderate to brisk and the seas calm. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. His Majesty the King stressed the important role of investors and Jordanian businessmen in supporting the national economy during a visit to the headquarters of the Manasir Group and Al-Hikma Pharmaceutical Company. The Iraqi parliament approves a new government headed by Haider Abadi as prime minister in a bid to rescue Iraq from collapse, with sectarianism and Arab-Kurdish tensions on the rise. And the world's largest tech company, Apple, unveils two new iPhones with sharper and larger displays, the first product since the iPad in 2010, at a special event in Cupertino, California. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Touqan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.